Hi gang, welcome to the quick tutorial on how to use bones. First thing I want to point out is I've created a layer, it's called rectangle, and I'm going to use my rectangle tool. And I'm just going to create a simple rectangle. Now, the older versions of Flash, if I created this as an object, it wouldn't allow me to do this, but I just discovered on this version it will allow me to do it no matter whether it's an object or not. So that's kind of a new feature. So if I would have clicked on the rectangle primitive tool, it would still allow me to do that. I discovered that when I was practicing for this video. So now I've got my rectangle right here. I am then going to click on the bones tool. Now watch what happens when I start to create my bone. I'm just going to click, drag, click, drag, and I'm just deciding, put in several little rotation points. Just think of it like an elbow. Now, once I finish that, notice what's happened up here in the timeline. The rectangle is now an empty layer, and I can actually delete that layer and nothing happens, because what Animate does is it takes that information that was on that layer and sticks it into an armature layer. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click over in frame 72-ish for 3 seconds worth of animation, and I'm going to hit F5. And what happens now is I can take a point like right around 10, use my selection tool, and I can move that object and click right there, just dragging it from one of the armatures. Click right there. Now I'm going to do something really radical. I am just going to take this and I'm going to rotate it all the way around. If you notice, I'm going off of the screen itself. Well, sometimes that can be kind of a pain in the bun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this armature right here, and I don't know if you can see it because the green and gold is kind of not the best contrast there is, but that armature is selected. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the properties bar, and I'm going to constrain the rotation. And what that does is it's going to put a limitation as to how much I can rotate this. Now, just as I did before, I'm going to take it, but it stops right there. And I'm just going to blow this up a little bit so you can actually see it. There's the limitation. So I'm going to click and drag it up right there to the farther end of the limitation. So that's one way of constraining the bones tool. So I'm going to jump back to 100%. Now another one of the limitations that I can do is I can actually pin a spot. So I've done some movement. I'm going to add one more piece of movement. I'm going to click right about there and move it just a teeny bit right there. And then after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my mouse pointer right up there and I'm going to click. Notice I've got a pin. It's got a plus sign. I click right there. And now when I go to frame 50 and try to move it, notice how it's no longer able to rotate on the lower portions of this. Just like that. Finish it off. Like that. Now if I wanted to spread it out, notice I've taken my mouse pointer and I can click up there and drag it a little bit more, and it just spreads this out a little bit. If it's too quick of motion or whatever the reason is. And I'm going to finish it off right there. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to lock the layer that I just created and I'm going to go hide it. And the reason I'm going to do this is I'm going to create a little square like that, and then I'm going to come back and select that square that I just created, And I'm going to go modify, convert to symbol. I'm going to make sure it's a graphic, and I'm just going to call it foot. And I've got a rotation point around there, but that when you start playing around with the bones, the rotation point's a mute subject. So now it's a symbol. Now I'm going to try to create a bone on that. I'm going to click right there. Nope. Click right there. Nope. Well, what it does is it just essentially, once it's a symbol, it says, hey, you can't add any more to that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to library, and I'm just going to add some of these symbols that I created, the foot symbols. Like that. Well, now I'm going to take and create just a little bit different type of movement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my bone tool. I'm going to click right here, and I'm going to drag it to this point there. I'm going to click and drag it to this point there. Click and drag it to this point there. And click and drag it to the middle right there. So once again, just like before, I had layer 2, which had 5 objects on it, and now I'm just going to delete them all together. I now have the first armature, which I'm going to call snake, and then this one I'm going to call, oh, it's like a Ferris wheel, but it's really not. It's one of those sliders that, let's just call it wheel, even though that's not the most descriptive. And then just like before, what's happened is, since I already had 80 frames identified, it assumes that I want this to last the same amount. Well, I don't have to go to the same set of rotations, but I'm going to do it just for grins. I'm going to come here to my move tool, and I'm going to drag it here. And I'm going to drag this one there and this one there. And just for grins, this one, I'm going to rotate a little bit so it's barely on. There we go. And same way with that, I'm going to go like this. Right there. Like that. I don't have to go the same directions. I can even have one surpass it. Sort of like the state fair. You know how they have those little wild little rides? This is what's going on right now. And ended up right there. So now let's see what it looks like. I'm going to come back right here and hit play. Well, I'm going to lock that. I'm going to hide it, and I'm going to come back here. And I don't believe I hit play on this one, so I'm going to hit play. Whee! I'm going to unlock it because I think that's kind of boring. So if I wanted to, I could come down here and and change the move. Got to grab that armature right there in order for the snake to move. And then I'm going to grab it up here. And now it's pinned right there. Let's go. Oops, I accidentally unpinned. There we go. I unpinned it so I can move it right there. There we go. Click on it. Click. Come on. Let me. There we go. Got my pin. And now I'm limited to that. And there. And let's see what it looks like. done with my snake, so I'm just going to delete. Normally I don't want to waste time like that. I'm going to show this and delete it. Oop, won't let me because I don't have anything else, so I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to delete that wheel layer now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of my foot, and then I'm actually going to have 3 points right there. I'm going to use my transform tool, and I'm actually going to rotate it. And I'm going to make this a little bit smaller like that. Same way with that. That's awful big for a foot, but I'm going to, just so there's a teeny bit, oops. That's bigger than I thought it was. And I'm going to use my move tool. And I've got what looks like a very rough leg. So now I'm going to use my bone tool. I'm going to click right up here and then let go right there. Click and drag and let go about right there. And I'm going to rename this armature. I'm going to call it leg. And just like before, layer 3 is useless now. It's empty. So I'm just going to delete it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my move tool. And I'm going to click on frame 15. Before I do that, I'm going to click on this armature. I'm going to come over here to properties. And I'm going to constrain the rotation to minus 60 and plus 70. I'm not going to use all of it, but I just wanted to show you that I can do that. And now what I'm going to do is, you see I've got that little movement restrictor, is frame 15. I'm going to move it back like this and rotate it like that. Come down to frame 30. Come down about frame 50. Oops. If I'd have been smart, I would have constrained the rotation on that. Like that. $70. And then I'll come down here to frame 80 and play around with it like that. So what I'm doing is I'm just creating a little leg that, timing's off on that, but you get the general idea. But let's say I didn't like that keyframe right here. I can right click, I can get rid of the whole armature, which you don't want to do. I can clear a pose. They don't call it keyframes. I keep forgetting that that's what they do. So I could clear that pose if I wanted to change it from there. Now another thing is, if I wanted to create the illusion of movement, I could go copy frames. I could do new layer, paste frames, and then I can create another leg. Now, if I would have done this right, I would have had a little more overlap, but I don't want to spend a whole lot of time doing this. Now, obviously, it was meant to be kicking originally, or maybe going upstairs. Like that. I'm going to come down to this one because I want to change its rotation a little bit. And then 80. Now you can see why part of the reasons you want to restrain some of the motion, because like whoop, too much. There we go. So that's the general idea right there. Now let me show you an example. This is one of the things that just kind of disappoints me. This actually went pretty well. I've been playing around with it. So you notice it says Untitled 8. I've been doing this several times and I've just had some weird hiccups, especially when it came to armatures. Um, the one thing that I didn't realize is now with constraining or enabling joint translation, that's essentially allowing me to stretch it out. It just, it's clunky as can be. It's really disappointing that it's not done better. So let's click on Untitled 8 and make it go away. Hopefully you won't have to do it 8 times. Well, you remember Snoopy and Woodstock. Well, I've broken apart Snoopy, and if I want to try to create a bones, notice what happens. I'm going to do something right there. Well, it's too complex. So any kind of picture is going to be way too complex. So what I have decided to do is I'm going to use my lasso tool, and I'm sorry, Snoopy, but I'm going to cut your head off. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm just drawing a line right around the neck right there. And I'm selecting it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go modify, convert to this symbol, and I'm going to call it, oops, head. And then I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to come up here. Notice I've got a little overlap over the neck, and I'm going to actually cut off part of his tail. And I'm going to go modify, convert to the symbol, and I'm going to call it body. Okay, I solved my little problem. I came into the library and just pulled out the body and the head from here, and it seemed to work a whole lot better. I am going to use my bones tool right there, and I couldn't save the tail, so I made a mistake, and I'm not going to go back and just try to fix it just for the silly tail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a bone right here, and then notice everything just like before on that layer has gone away. And now on frame 50, I'm going to hit an F5, and then down here hit an F5. Hit the wrong layer. Ah, there we go. So now if I wanted to frame 10, I can grab his head and just rotate it just slightly. Frame 20. Now obviously I would have worked on that a little bit, but you get the general idea. And how I would have solved that is with overlap, and that's what I was trying to do before. And unfortunately, I missed it. And then come here, rotate it one more time. If you didn't notice what happened, somehow I blanked out a frame in the very beginning, so I just clicked and dragged it over here. Now let's see what the movement looks like. And let's clear that keyframe. Boom. So that's how you can animate a character. That you just have to basically break it up. Normally what I would do is cut that down at the legs and have his legs move separately, but I'm having all sorts of silly little problems that I normally don't do. And let's get Snoopy just kind of, once again, just have a little bit of overlap on each one of those and you won't have as much problem and it won't look as bad. But that's how to do it. Now for the homework assignment, drag my, before I forget, there's a tutorial on there, and then there's something that you can look at. But the assignment is to take and do something with the bones tool. Now the coolest thing that I've ever seen was somebody animated a dragon and actually had the wings flying. And I mean, it was the most amazing thing. You could tell that this person spent a lot of time on that. Another one was having fish going around, and you could see how the fish were swimming in the water. Now, Bones is not as much fun yet until we start playing with movie clips, and then you'll see how that's going to be very powerful. But the add with sound, that's due tonight, even though we didn't have class, because you had that open lab. So good luck, and I will be talking with you soon.